Hello Huskies and welcome to a very special edition of my GVC podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of interviewing our president of the college, Dr. Gervan Fearon. Welcome, Mr. President. Thank you for joining us today. We are so excited to have you here at the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's actually really a wonderful moment to have the opportunity to engage not only with you, but with all of our students. So looking forward to it a lot.
It's our pleasure. What was your experience like as a student? What did you study and what were your interests at the time?
Well, I don't know if there's ever such a thing as a normal student experience. So one of the things for me is that I started off at University of Guelph wanting to be an economist, wanting to be an accountant. And after my first year, realizing that to be able to do accounting, I needed to transfer to agriculture. So I transferred from arts into sciences, complete different field and different way of studying, different way of learning. But what I found most exciting for me, that I felt that higher education was kind of a bit of my savior. All of a sudden I discovered learning and discovery and thinking about things and doing things. And it really made a huge difference, I think, in my life. But simultaneously, all the way through my high school and through university, I worked in a factory. So I worked on, in fact, some of the same machines that I see that we have at Casa Loma. So quite often I'm walking through Casa Loma and somebody's working on, one of those machine, a punch press or doing welding. I go, I did that, and people are kind of marveled, but aren't you the president? I said, yeah, but I worked in a factory for a very, very long time. So it's a really interesting way of combining education, I guess.
It is, and actually you see from the fact of changing those two from arts to something more like a science, I think it's a very huge impact and a very huge difference as well. So what kind of music were you listening at the time?
Well, I was really eclectic in the music I listened to. So growing up in Canada, Gordon Lightfoot, you couldn't not listen to that kind of stuff at one level. But then I have Jamaican parents. So I was listening to Bob Marley and a lot of reggae. And then can't ignore the US influence being in Toronto. So I used to listen to a lot of funk and Parliament and Prince and stuff like that. So just a really wide range of music. And I've been known to get to the opera and see something, like a ballet like Swan Lake. So I was just all over the map. So I just like music, period.
It was a mix of everything.
Yeah.
Amazing. Is there a song that you can think of, like just one maybe?
Well, interestingly enough, I was thinking about, the kind of music that I listen to and one song. And there's a song that's kind of special to me. And it's called Ain't No Sunshine. And it's really about my mom. And, so when I was away at school, I went to Guelph and I grew up in Toronto. So when I was away, so ain't no sunshine when you're gone. Right?
Oh,
Right? So it was kind of my lament for not being home at times. Yeah.
Like something that makes you feel better and
feel
like
just
that
feel
you are
connected,
with your family.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think I have to listen to that song for sure.
Yeah.
So over time in post-secondary education and particularly at George Brown, what challenge have you seen that students face and how you have seen them to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would say is that we have such fantastic students, and I get a chance to meet our students, whether walking through the halls or sometimes I'm out at a restaurant or I'm out at a business and that person went to George Brown, and I get a chance to talk to our students at graduation and convocation and the like. So I get a chance to really talk to a lot of students and to find out what some of their challenges are. One is, of course, financial, and it's sometimes really difficult for students to try to figure out, how do I pay for my education, and how do I pay not only for my education, but I've got to pay for rent and food and books and all the things that go into education. And so I really respect a lot of our students who are working part-time and trying to fit it all together and make it work. So that balancing act between financial and time demands. And for them, I often say, but if you're going to make one investment, and if you're going to do any one thing, investing in your education is probably the best transformative investment that you could ever make. I think another challenge that a lot of students face, and particularly as we've gone through COVID, is kind of a sense of loneliness. Individuals are quite often alone. They may be new to the country, so they feel away from family and friends and connectedness. You know, for me, I actually say that emotions are all important. So if there's a sense of loneliness, then it's telling you something. It's saying, how can you connect with a network of friends? How can you get out and get engaged? And as well, how can you reach out for services if needed? So our mental health services or other services. So never really feeling alone, even if one has a sense of loneliness. Lastly, though, I think there's always a question about the future. So, so am I going to get that job? What's going to happen if I study this? Is that going to be the right thing? To me, the fact that the person is studying here at George Brown, they've already made a great decision. And what I found amazing, a couple months ago, we had the convocation ceremony for those who had missed convocation because of COVID. And I just kept on stage getting all enamored by what they were telling me, because they'd all gone on and gotten great jobs and they were realizing their dreams and so forth. And I suspect that when they were students, they maybe couldn't see that happening yet. So in a sense, it's that encouragement that I like to give students, that you might not necessarily see how it's going to translate into a job and into other possibilities right away, but it does. And as students are challenged or going through all those kinds of challenges, to just stick at it, it makes a huge difference, and it's worth it.
Sometimes that happens. You don't know if you will accomplish what you are looking for. So it's amazing to have that perspective that someone already did it, they reached to those goals. So why we're not going to do it if we have the same skills, if we have a lot of support here at George Brown? So what song makes you feel like you can overcome that challenge?
What song?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, I got to tell you, if I think about that, I would say Bob Marley's Redemption Song.
Okay.
It really speaks about individuals being enslaved and how they went into the present and into the future, being able to overcome challenges. And it's one of his last songs that got published at the time before he passed away. And the song is Redemption. It's that idea that he sings about, that he basically tries to say, what is it that his legacy is? And he basically says, my legacy was my songs. I think quite often, whether historical challenges or present day challenges, we all face challenges as individuals, but it is that idea that in just being ourselves, we're also bringing a gift to others and to the world. In his case, it was his songs, and other individuals, it may be what they do in culinary arts, it may be what they do in fashion, it may be what they do in design or construction management. All the different programs that we've got here with the students studying, all of those are gifts that they carry into the world. And at the end of it all, we all deliver and provide to others a gift. And I think notwithstanding challenges, it's recognizing those gifts that we all have. So Redemption Song is kind of my song because it has that kind of color to it, in my mind at least.
So I think we all need to listen that song to feel that power, to feel that we are giving to everyone or a little piece of something.
Yeah, precisely.
So at the end of the semester, we often feel like stressed and overwhelmed. How do you think that students can stay grounded in their last week?
Yeah, I think particularly in the last week, you've got this heavy exam schedule. You're trying to deliver on all the results at the end. I think one way of thinking about it, rather than looking at it as tests, look at it as an opportunity to display all that you've learned and all that you've acquired. And consequently, it's changing the mindset. It's not a hurdle, but it's an opportunity. So that's one item, just changing the mindset as to how one sees it. I think the other item is recognizing one's strengths, that the individual has had so much strength in getting here, getting to where they are, and having that confidence that I've done all of this. I've got the strength to do this next thing, this next part of it, and that is going to be okay. But lastly is also being able to recognize that after that last week, then that there's a moment of pause and a moment to be able to kind of relax and enjoy. We can have both. We can have moments where we're intensely getting something done, and then we can have another moment where we could pause and relax as well. And both of those parts are really important.
So, I think when we arrive to that part of pause, you feel amazing because, okay, I did it.
Yeah,
I did all my assignments, I did all the semester, everything went well. So I think it's even better. You feel even like with more energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and over that time period, the person, as an individual, you've grown, you know a lot more. But I think also it's recognizing that there's a little bit of a momentum. So like for the first term, sometimes it's really hard, it's disorienting. But by the second term, you've got all that what you've already learned and acquired, and you've got a momentum. So in some senses, what I found for myself is that learning became easier, and I was always better the next year, the next year, the next year. So in that sense, it's to just recognize that there can be momentums, but also to have a strategy around learning and to be able to find out what makes you learn best, what makes you perform best, as opposed to simply just doing it. It's being able to be kind of inspectful, reflective about what you do and how you do it.
That's true, like looking for your learning style.
Yeah.
Okay, should I am a visual person? I'm more like someone who is kinesthetic. I'm someone who's reading. So in that case, you know how you can implement in each semester and get better.
Yeah, just on that point though, I would say that quite often we look towards our strengths, and our strengths are our strengths and they're important. Yeah. But the biggest component of growth is sometimes our weaknesses. Okay. So that means then that we want to be able to rely on our strengths, but being able to identify our weaknesses can also be really great areas of growth as well.
That's true. So what song makes you feel grounded?
Oh man, what song makes me feel grounded? I think if I was going to think of a song that makes me feel grounded is What a Wonderful World. Yeah, it gets you to kind of stand back and, being in that amazing field, which you could be in a field in the middle of a city, because it's a field in your mind. And then just kind of that recognition where you pause and you recognize that it's still a really wonderful world. And that wonderful world is not simply because of what it is, but it's also because of what we make it. And what we make for others and what we do for others is part of that amazing statement of what a wonderful world. So that's the song that would be a grounding. That grounds me. Yeah. In case, if I ever lose perspective, put that on, think about that. Yeah, it's a wonderful world.
I love it.
Yeah.
So have you ever been away from home during holiday? And what advice would you give to international students to enjoy the holidays in Canada this semester?
Yeah, so I've been away from home for holidays for a number of reasons. I remember I mentioned earlier that I worked in a factory. One summer I worked on a farm in southern Ontario and grew up in Toronto, so urban kid. And I'm in rural Ontario, away from everything familiar. And at one level, there's the missing of friends and all that kind of connectedness. But then there's also that moment where you pause and you kind of go to yourself, well, I don't know if I'll ever do this again. Why don't I just embrace it and learn some stuff and just take the moment. The other side to it is if someone is from more of a tropical or southern type climes, then there might be a little bit of a sense of what do I do with all this snow, But again, there's an opportunity to think about, well, while I'm here, might I learn how to skate? Might I learn how to ski? Might I learn how to go snowshoe? Might I just walk in the park? Making sure that you're really dressed for the weather, right? And stuff like that. So I think that even while one's away from family over the holiday season and the different kinds of weathers and stuff like that, there's an opportunity to learn so much about Toronto, about Canada, about this incredible multicultural city where you can get a taste, direction of cultures from around the world. There's just a whole lot of things to do in Toronto. Of course, calling home now and then, there's so many different ways to be able to stay connected and in touch with the people that are close to you.
That's true. I think like it's always to try something new. In that case, for us, for people who are not from Canada, it's amazing also to see the things different here, to explore, to see the culture, to get involved with the Canadian culture. I think it's an amazing opportunity as well.
Yeah, precise.
So what's your favorite holiday song?
Oh gosh, my favorite holiday song. Now that's a tough one. But I got to tell you, it's Prince's 1999.
Yeah.
I think I could think of other ones, but I think that's my favorite.
Is
That's
the
my
favorite
favorite.
one?
That's my favorite holiday song for
That's
New
a
Year.
mood.
Yeah, yeah.
So looking forward to January. Winter, as we talked, can be a hard season in Canada. So what advice will you give to students to getting through and even enjoying the winter semester?
Yeah, I think that as the winter months weigh on and it gets a little darker, it gets a little colder and so forth, then one can kind of almost pull inward and almost forget the why. Why am I really doing what I'm doing? So not to forget why you're doing what you're doing. I think the other item is that there's lots of really beautiful things in the city to see, like go to City Hall and see the lights and see people skating around, the Royal Ontario Museum, the art gallery. There are lots of indoor things that can be done. And then there are lots of outdoor things that can be done in terms of all the displays that are around. So maybe just kind of budgeting a little bit of time to, even if it's one or two activities where it's been a long week and you've been studying really hard and you say to yourself, I'm going to give myself a treat. I'm going to go and do this. But the other side is that there are lots of things happening at the college as well, and classmates and being able to team up with, you've just done a project together and handed in a great assignment. Well, why not take the time to go out for coffee together and to be able to have that exposure of likely individuals from all over Canada, all over the world, and to be able to engage in a really nice dialogue. So lots of things like that as well.
Thank you. Sounds it's a very nice way to do it. So what is your favorite Canadian musician?
Oh gosh, my favorite Canadian musician. Well, I think I'm going to go and name two for you. First, I'll name Deborah Cox, and then the other person who's kind of a really interesting singer in terms of reggae genre and the likes, who's Divine Brown.
Okay, sounds good. I will listen both as well. Yeah. So the holidays are often a time for connecting. What makes you feel connect to your community at work, at home, or in your spare time?
One of the traditions that I really like doing as we go into the holidays is I really like to be able to buy a present for the team that I work with and to be able to wish them a really amazing holiday season. And it's kind of really fantastic because I know that they're kind of going off, they're going to get rejuvenated, they're going to get connected themselves with family and friends. I kind of look at that time period as kind of a nice transition period and pause. So family and friends, a lot of it for me is it's actually a bit of a quiet time for our family, but quite often we'll spend time with parents or with children. We've got children and kids, or my brother and sister and my wife's sisters and the likes. So it really is for us a coming together. Quite often as well, we'll do a bit of a pick a destination and all of family will show up at that destination. So somebody's house will usually end up with a whole bunch of people. And then community, quite often there are lots of events happening across Toronto, and I like to be able to kind of get out, whether it's just getting to City Hall and seeing what's going on there, or sometimes there's a community event happening somewhere as well, and getting out and just taking in a bit of quiet time. Lastly, though, I think it's also a time where the team that I work with will also start thinking about how about other people who don't exactly have a moment with family. So it's finding a favorite charity, whether you're volunteering your time or giving out treasure. So to me, it's about the giving part that really makes it nice as well. Yeah.
That's a nice. Also, it's like quality time, right?
Yeah,
Quality time.
It's all quality.
What's your favorite song about people coming together?
Well, I got to tell you, it's Bob Marley's One Love. Let's get together and feel all right.
Nice. In your life, up until now, when and where were you the happiest?
Oh gosh, I think I'm pretty well always happy. And I think I'm happiest when I'm doing things that make a difference for others. That's my happy spot. Whether it's that one student that they ask you, how do I actually translate my ideas into a profession? And you're helping them, or just helping. That's my
Giving to
happiness.
others.
Giving to others, yeah,
Nice.
that's my happiness.
What do you value the most in your friends?
Integrity, honesty, compassion.
Love it. What is your most treasured possession?
I think my passion.
That's
Yeah, and it may seem like an odd possession, but I'm passionate about life, about lots of things, and that's something that I guess can just stay with me regardless of. It's a bit of a treasure, yeah.
What was the last good book that you read?
I think it was Managing in Turbulent Times. It's actually been written, I think it's the 1980s, but it was really interesting. I was just passing by my bookshelf in the basement, and I've got books all over, just tons of books, and saw that, and I hadn't read it for a while, and I picked it up, and I thought, going through COVID, what a more emblematic time period than turbulent times. But what was also interesting about it, because it was written several years ago when they were thinking of turbulent times then, just kind of gave a bit of perspective that there are turbulent times, but we do get through it. And we do have to kind of maintain a bit of perspective and build. In turbulent times, are we building the capacity to be able to actually to succeed and thrive in times that are more stable and more clear in terms of understanding and the likes?
It was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, for take the time to be with us. I hope that you have a good rest of the semester and amazing holidays.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think I'd extend that same perfect wish that you extended to me, to all the students, everybody here associated with Gervan College. Thank you so much as well.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear the president playing his favorite song on the saxophone.